The Universal Academy's xenobiology hall buzzed with nervous chittering as Professor Veltar, a distinguished Zephyrian with iridescent scales, announced the day's assignment. Students from 17 different species shuffled in their specially designed seats, tentacles, appendages, and various limbs adjusting with anticipation. Today, we shall observe domesticated companions from your respective homeworlds, Professor Veltar announced, his voice carrying the melodic trill typical of his species. This exercise will help us understand the diverse relationships between sentient species and their chosen animal companions. Naz, a brilliant Altarian exchange student with luminescent blue skin and delicate gill slits along her neck, glanced nervously at her containment unit. Inside, her beloved shimmerfish floated gracefully, its translucent body pulsing with soft bioluminescent patterns. The creature was no larger than her palm, bred specifically for companionship on her aquatic homeworld. Around the classroom, other students prepared their presentations. The Corvani delegation had brought their traditional mind moths, tiny telepathic insects that could project soothing thoughts. The crystalline Xerions displayed their resonance stones, living mineral companions that hummed in harmony with their owner's emotions. But all eyes turned to the back corner where Raza sat, the lone human in the class. His desk remained conspicuously empty. No containment unit, no transport cage, nothing but a simple leash coiled beside his datapad. "Mr. Raza," Professor Veltar called, his head tilting with curiosity. "Where is your Earth companion?" The assignment clearly stated, "He's coming, Professor," Raza replied with a calm smile that somehow made several students shift uncomfortably in their seats. "I had to leave him in the corridor. Didn't want to cause a panic." Naz felt her gill slits flutter with anxiety. During their friendship over the past semester, she'd learned that humans had a peculiar relationship with danger. They seemed to actively seek it out. Raza had once casually mentioned that his species evolved alongside creatures that could kill them with a single bite, yet somehow convinced these predators to live in their homes. A heavy thud echoed from the corridor, followed by the sound of scratching against metal. The scratching grew closer, accompanied by deep rhythmic breathing that seemed to vibrate through the walls themselves. The classroom fell silent. Professor Veltar's scales shifted from their normal silver to a pale yellow, a Zephyrian fear response. "Mr. Raza, what exactly did you—" The door chimed and Raza stood up. "Come on, boy," he called cheerfully toward the entrance. What entered the classroom defied every other student's understanding of the word pet. The creature was massive, standing nearly as tall as Raza's waist at the shoulder. Its body was built like a perfectly engineered killing machine. Powerful muscles rippled beneath a coat of thick tan fur marked with darker stripes. Enormous paws padded silently across the floor, each step revealing claws that could easily shred through the classroom's reinforced panels. But most terrifying of all were its eyes, intelligent, alert, and focused, scanning the room with the calculating gaze of an apex predator. The creature's massive head turned toward the class, revealing teeth designed for tearing flesh, and it opened its mouth to release a sound that made every non-human student freeze in primal terror. A deep, rumbling growl that spoke of power beyond their comprehension. Then the impossible happened. The apex predator's tail began to wag. "Everyone meet Rex," Raza announced casually, scratching behind the creature's ears. The beast Rex leaned into the touch, making a sound that vibrated through his massive chest.
"He's a German Shepherd."
"Well, mostly. There might be some wolf in there, but the genetics clinic wasn't entirely sure." Professor Veltar had backed against the far wall, his scales now pure white. "Mr. Raza, that is a predator. An apex predator. How is it not attempting to kill everything in this room?" Raza looked genuinely confused by the question. "Kill Rex? Professor, he's the gentlest dog I know. Watch this." He pointed to a spot near his feet. "Rex, sit." The massive predator immediately dropped to a sitting position, tongue lolling out in what could only be described as happiness. "Roll over." Rex dropped to the floor and rolled onto his back, exposing his vulnerable belly in a display of complete trust, tail still wagging frantically. The classroom erupted in shocked chirps, clicks, and gasps from various species. Naz found her voice first. "Raza, how does your species domesticate apex predators?" "Domesticate?" Raza laughed, kneeling down to rub Rex's exposed belly. We didn't domesticate them, Naz. We convinced them to choose us. Thousands of years ago, we formed a partnership. We gave them food and shelter, and they gave us their loyalty, their protection, their companionship. He stood up, and Rex immediately rolled back over, pressing his massive head against Raza's leg.
Humans and dogs evolved together.
We shaped each other. They made us better hunters, better survivors. We made them family. The word family seemed to resonate through the universal translator in ways that transcended species barriers. Professor Veltar slowly approached, his scientific curiosity overcoming his fear. The creature shows no signs of aggression toward you or anyone else in the room. This suggests a level of behavioral modification that should be impossible without genetic restructuring. No genetic modification needed, Raza explained. Just thousands of generations of mutual selection. Humans chose the dogs that were loyal and gentle with our children. Dogs chose the humans who treated them as family rather than tools. Rex, as if understanding the conversation, walked over to Naz's desk. The Altarian student froze as the massive predator sniffed delicately at her containment unit, then looked up at her with what could only be described as gentle curiosity. He wants to meet your fish, Raza explained. Rex loves making new friends. Trembling, Naz held up the container. Rex's enormous head tilted to one side, and he made a soft whining sound, somehow conveying more gentleness than any sound she'd heard from the supposedly domesticated creatures her classmates had brought. Professor Veltar was rapidly taking notes. Remarkable. The predator shows interest without aggression, curiosity without predatory instinct. Mr. Raza, your species has achieved something that contradicts everything we understand about apex predator behavior. Raza shrugged, the gesture so casually human that it somehow emphasized the profound nature of what they were witnessing. Maybe that's because we never saw them as predators to be feared. We saw them as partners to be respected. He looked around the classroom at the dozens of tiny, harmless creatures his classmates had brought. Creatures bred to be decorative, non-threatening, easily controlled. You all brought pets, he said simply. I brought my best friend. Rex barked once, a sound that should have been terrifying but somehow conveyed nothing but joy, and the tail wagging intensified. As the class period ended and students began to file out, chattering excitedly in their various languages about what they'd witnessed, Professor Veltar approached Raza one final time. Mr. Raza, in all my years studying interspecies relationships, I've never seen anything like this. Your species has formed a bond with an apex predator that goes beyond domestication. It's true partnership. Raza smiled, clipping the leash onto Rex's collar, though it was clear the massive dog needed no such restraint. Professor, I think that might be the most human thing about us. We don't just survive alongside the things that could destroy us. Rex looked up at his human companion with absolute devotion. We make them love us back.